Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a crit champion build guide from Baldur's Gate 3, and this is going to be more of an archer focus as a request. This is actually a really powerful build because crits are pretty easy to hit if you have the right gear, and yeah, the champion takes advantage of them. And I'm going to add in another class, obviously that adds a massive benefit to this with the Warlock Goo, great old one, but we're first going to start off as a fighter, and for our fighting style, you can go with the archery for the +2 to attack rolls. I'm a big fan of defense because I think that that's just fantastic, but the champion actually gets another fighting style later on, so we're going to go with defense for the beginning because it's just easier to start the game with higher armor class. Now for this build, it's actually kind of interesting. We want to go all in on our dexterity, have high constitution. We need to have a decent bit of charisma, but we can go all in on these main stats here. So ideally we would take our dexterity up to around there. You can use the hags here to take it up to 18. So something like this for our stats is pretty good. We're going to be using two-handed weapons. I find that that just works fantastic for this build, so we're going to go with that for our ability scores as the fighter. So the fighter actually is really strong. It's one of the more vanilla bland classes, but it actually has a lot of usefulness if you pair it with certain classes. So at level 2 we just get our action surge, which gives us another action, which is awesome. At level 3 we get to choose our subclass. I'm a huge fan of Battlemaster, but for this build it's going to be the champion, which reduces the number we need to roll a critical hit while attacking by 1. So to roll a critical hit, just for people that aren't aware, you need to roll a 20 on the dice. So this allows you to roll a 19 or 20, which effectively gives us a 5% increase to our critical hit chance. With the right gear, we can take that down a whole lot, which I'll get into near the end of this video. So the champion, it doesn't seem as good on paper, but this build's actually quite powerful because we can add in some things that gives us better feats. Now, I just want to mention before I get the comment, because I know it's going to come, that the half orc is best to be done for the champion build because the half orc gets another dice added to the critical hits, and that is true. The orc is probably the best, but who wants to play as an orc? I mean, some people do, but I'm not the biggest fan of playing as orcs, although they are the min-max best one. So we can add in the Savage Attacker. When we're making melee attacks, you roll your damage die twice and use the highest result. Not really optimal for this. Sharpshooter would be pretty good, gives us the -5 to our attack roll, but we can take the archery fighting style later on to make that like just a -3. But we deal additional 10 damage. If we're using hand crossbows, that gets pretty crazy. So that can be really nice. There's also the ability to go with like our I guess dual wielder is good too for wielding 2 weapons. You get a +1 to armor class, and then you can also use heavier weapons, which is kind of nice. Crossbow expert allows you to do melee attacks with your bow, so if you really want to go all in on the bow, that's a good way to do it. I'm trying to see here. There is another option that we could go with. A Savage Attacker is really solid, though. I think that that's a good choice for most. But I guess, yeah, ability improvement's always a great option. You can take your constitution up, you can take the dexterity up. With the hags here, we would have 20 dexterity at level 4, which is awesome. So that would be the ideal way about going about it. Level 5, we get ourselves the extra attack. I play as a drow, so I get nice darkness spell, which is just good for setting up some of your other team, especially if you have like a rogue or anyone that benefits from shadows. And there's actually a piece of gear that will benefit from this as well to increase our critical hit chance, so that's quite nice. Now level 6 we do get another feat. Savage Attacker really is one of the better ones that you can go with. So when you make a weapon attack, you roll your damage die twice and use the highest result. So straight up just making more damage. But again, this is going to be more of a bow build, so I think it's better to go with something like the Sharpshooter, which -5 penalty to attack roll would deal additional 10 damage. You can toggle this off too if you find your hit chance is not that great. And then we don't lose any we don't have any penalties from attacking from low ground, which is just great to have as well. There are some other options, I guess, if you wanted to like go high in on your health. Tough can be okay. Mage Slayer is decent, but yeah, I think for the purposes of this, it's probably best to go with like an ability improvement or alert. Sometimes even just alert to go first and then critical finish some of the enemies is really nice. Yeah, there's so many different feats that you can roll with for a fighter, because that really helps level things out. If you're going with you can go with a great weapon master, because that does benefit when you land a critical hit. You can make another melee attacker as a bonus action that turn, which is really nice because we will be hitting a lot of bonus actions. But I'm using 2 weapons, and the dual wielder I think is the best perk for this, so you can use 2 weapon fighting. It will give us a +1 to armor class, but the nice thing is we do have weapons that will increase the chances of us hitting a critical hit, so that's probably one of the best ways to go about doing this. Savage Attacker is really nice too if you want to focus more on melee weapons, and Sharpshooter if you're going more for bow focused. It really is up to you, I guess, how you want to take that, but I think dual wielder is great because it just allows us to open things up a lot more, and it gives us a +1 armor class, which everyone benefits from. So we get the Remarkable Athlete Proficiency, or Master Your Own Body, Athletic Prowess. You can add half your proficiency bonus to any Strength, Dexterity, and Constitution check we're not proficient in. And then we also increase our jump by 3 meters. That's pretty good. Remarkable Athlete. The champion itself is quite interesting, but this is what makes this even better, is the ability to get all these feats, and then also on top of all of that, we deal a bit of damage when we hit a critical. I like to go with the Paladin because the Paladin smites can be really effective, but I'll probably leave that for a different build because I think that that's a completely different thing than the champion and how you want to play the champion. But yeah, I guess for our next feat here, there's a few options we can go with. Heavy Armor Master is not a bad one, especially if you want to increase your strength by 1. But yeah, this is a tough one. Alert is also a really good option because it gives you the increased 5 to initiative. So that means, again, we can move first and take out enemies first, so we can just completely clear the board that way. Yeah, there is a few different ways we can go about doing this. Mobile will give us the movement speed increases. Yeah, it's tough. There's a lot of really great options for this. I was humming and hawing on the different abilities that we could go with. Like Sharpshooter, I think is probably the best for this. We could go higher into our Constitution or Strength or Dexterity, but ideally you'd have Hag's Hair on Dexterity to take it to 20. This will give us a +10 to our attack rolls, and that's pretty big. So +10 to damage rolls. At level 9, we get Indomitable, so whenever you fail a saving throw, you can roll it again, and using the new result instead. Just flat out nice. Level 10, we get ourselves that next fighting style. So that's one of the biggest benefits of the champion, and a lot of people don't really think about it that much when it comes to the build, but it does add quite a bit to it. So with this, obviously archery, 2 weapon fighting can be okay too, adding our ability modifier to the damage, but archery just gives +2 to ranged weapon attacks. Who doesn't want that? And then at our level 11, this is where the fighter kind of caps off its abilities. You get a feat at next level, but we get to 2 additional attacks. This is huge. This is what makes the fighter so great, is it gets 3 attacks. If you want another feat, you can go that way, but I think it's actually best to go and add in the Warlock and add in the Great Old One, because when you land a critical hit against a creature, they and any nearby creatures must succeed a Wisdom saving throw or become frightened until the end of their turn. Huge. Frightened basically shuts down the enemy for that turn, so that is massive. We also get Eldritch Blast, which is quite nice for just a random cantrip to take. Minor Illusion is also a really good one, or Friends if you're the face of the party. Even Mage Hand is kind of nice if you have a team that's water. Like if you have a Storm Sorcerer, you can use this to throw water bottles to set up your Sorcerer. Bone Chill will also stop the target from healing, so that can be good too. If in a pinch, it can be nice. But I think Minor Illusion is super underrated. It just groups enemies together. If you're trying to steal from them, you can move them out of the room. And then for our feats here, Expeditious Retreat, gain dash immediately and use as a bonus action at the end of your turns until the spell ends. It can be a decent concentration. I personally just like Hellish Rebuke. Use your react to your next attacker with flames that deal 2 to 40 fire or 2 to 20 fire damage. So that's really good. You're not going to want to use really any action-based spells with the Warlock, because you're going to want to attack instead. So all of these kind of get scrapped. Although Armor of Agathis can be nice to add cold damage to people that attack you, I think that it's actually good to go with Hex. Now, some people don't like Hex. Hex Wisdom will increase your stealth chance, so if you have any stealth users, that's good. But your attacks deal initial 1 to 6 necrotic damage against the target. You have a disadvantage on an ability of your choosing. So this is a concentration that, if we keep attacking it, that's a 1d6 times 3 that we get extra. So Hellish Rebuke and Hex, even though Hex isn't fantastic, it works for this build. And I'll go over the way to play this and the gear options. So we got a pretty empty skill bar there, but I don't have Savarok's Horned Helmet, but I'll just, I guess, focus with the armor class here. We have a nice 25. And then we also take half damage because we have Blade Ward from the Armor of Persistence here. So resistance against all physical damage and 1d4 increase to our saving throws. The helmet heals you for 2 at the start of turn, +1 armor class saving throws. Can't be stunned, and we can't be critical hit. Now, Savarok's Horned Helm is kind of the best in slot for this. I don't know where it went on my build. I lost it somehow. The Dark Justiciar will, when we're in darkness, when we're obscured, we have an increased chance of hitting a critical hit. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from our class. So that's 6 times 5. That's a 30% increase of hitting a critical hit, which is fantastic. So I guess, yeah, with that all added together, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from our champion, and then that's 6 minus 20. So I guess we count the 20 as a 5% chance. So that's 35% chance of hitting a critical hit. That's pretty good. I'll be honest, that's really good. So the Shade Slayer Cloak gives us that +1. Armor Persistent removes all damage by 2. You gain resistance to Blade War and disadvantage stealth checks. Legacy of the Master, gain +2 to attack and damage roll with weapons. That's just nice, flat out increased damage. There are some other options like the Crater Fist. Whenever you score a critical hit, deal an additional 1 to 6 force damage. So force is not resisted by many people. So it's nice to add on top. You can also go with the Helldust Gloves for the 1 to 6 fire damage, which is nice. But Crater Fish is like, if you don't have anyone else using that. The Legacy of the Master, though, +2 to attack rolls is great because you're going to be having a reduced hit chance with our criticals. Also, the Flayed of the First Blood, number you need to roll a critical hit is reduced by 1, it can stack, and then when you attack a creature with this, they receive vulnerability to piercing damage. That's what makes this build so great, is we actually attack with this, and then we can attack with this, and we have piercing damage on all of that. So that gives you a critical hit chance. This gives you a reduced number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking by 1, and this can stack. When you roll 2 damage or less, re-roll the die, take the highest result. And you have an advantage on attack rolls against lightly or heavily obscured targets. We could also go with like the armor of agility, which would give us 26 if we had the I guess the, what is it, the Hag's Hair on our dexterity. That would give us the +5 to dexterity, and then you could use Mirror of Loss to get our armor class up to 27, which would be ideal. I think the armor of agility works best because it doesn't give any disadvantage on stealth, and we want to use a little bit of stealth here, so you can go with either of these here. They both work great. I'm using the Amulet of Greater Health because that gives us a nice 147 health, which is huge. Ring of Protection for +1 armor class, and then the Killer Sweetheart gives us the chance to hit a critical hit when you kill a target. So we're going to stack up all our critical hits and strike fear in enemies. The Dead Shot, so the wielder doubles their proficiency bonus when rolling ranged weapon attacks unless they have a disadvantage. The Dead Shot's pretty solid of a bow, but we can also go with the Titan String Bow, which is pretty strong because it'll add our strength modifier damage, but I really like the Dead Shot. And even the Goner Mail is pretty nice because it does have Celestial Haste, but you could also go with the 2 crossbows, the Hellfire Hand Crossbow, and then in the offhand have the Fire Stoker, because this will, if you're going more of a stealth route, you can inflict burning on a target and then hit them with this for the increased pierce damage, which would also benefit from being a critical hit. But the Dead Shot's kind of the bow for this, because this will increase your critical hit chance with your melee attacks too, so it all around comes together. The champion itself is a pretty strong class in Baldur's Gate 3. You're typically going to want to start off with using your bonus action to hex a target, and hexing Wisdom's good if you have someone that's going to be stealthing around, because Wisdom checks is what it uses if there's stealth checks. We have the second wind for healing on ourselves, and then Minor Illusion too. Minor Illusion is good because it'll draw enemies all together, and they're like, oh, what's that, a cat? And then we can go low going after a cat, and then we can blast them, which is really nice. But yeah, the big focus of this would be ranged weapons, so stock up on arrow of many targets. That's just really nice to have. And yeah, then I guess for our other really big bonus would be the action surge there, so that gives us the ability to attack multiple times. And with this, it can 6 times 6, 36 damage from an action surge, triple attack twice. That's pretty good. As well as if you have haste from someone, you can stack up a lot of damage to that hex. And I think the Great Old One Warlock actually goes very well with this build, which is interesting to think about, but it's pretty strong. So yeah, that is the Crit Fishing Archery Champion build guide for Baldur's Gate 3. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video fun or useful, please hit the subscribe button below. If you have any requests for videos, please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next video.